Next news. Breaking news from the White House.
Tonight, President Trump's America First doctrine is no longer a slogan. It's a steel vice closing around Tehran. The White House says the blockade is tightening by the hour. CENTCOM says 34 vessels have already been redirected. Shipping data shows barely any traffic moving through the Strait of Hormuz, and now the message from Washington is crystal clear. If Iranian pirate boats threaten U.S. assets, the Trump administration has authorized lethal force. That's not a warning shot. That is a presidential line in the water. The question tonight is simple. Will Iran back down, or will it test a commander-in-chief who actually means what he says? Now, this matters to every American family because what happens in those shipping lanes, it hits your wallet, your security. And America's standing in the world. Iran has spent years trying to weaponize chaos, oil routes, proxy attacks, harassment at sea, all to squeeze the West and project fake strength. President Trump is flipping that script. Instead of begging the regime to behave like the previous administration did, the Trump administration is forcing a choice. Make a deal or get isolated. That protects U.S. troops, protects global commerce, and tells every hostile regime that the era of empty red lines is over. Now, socially, it sends a message that our allies can understand and our enemies can't ignore. Now, America's back in command. Now, politically, this is a total rebuke of the foreign policy class that gave us endless wars, weak deterrence, and lectures about results. 3 U.S. aircraft carriers are now operating in the Middle East. More than 200 aircraft are in position. And the Navy is enforcing an ironclad blockade without apology. You know what that's called, my friends? That is peace through strength, not surrender through paperwork. And when we're talking about strength, endurance, and getting your edge back, I want to share something very personal with you. For years, my wife battled chronic pain and anxiety from her diagnosis, endless doctor visits, treatments that didn't help. Watching her struggle daily, it broke my heart. And then Jonathan Otto introduced red light therapy to our family. Her pain vanished, anxiety lifted. She's sleeping soundly, full of energy and life again. Now, my recovery and vitality better than guys half my age. Truly life-changing for us. That's why I'm telling you about red light therapy. It's backed by NASA research, FDA cleared, and studies show rapid pain relief and real support for recovery, sleep, and energy. I do it every day. I take methylene blue. I get under my red light, and it works wonders. So if you want to feel stronger and more resilient, go to myredlight.com. Use NNN25 for 25% off individual items or NNN30 for 30% off bundles. You won't regret it. Now back to a president bringing that same kind of strength and clarity to the world stage. Now here's the angle the corporate press does not want to admit. It's working faster than the so-called experts ever predicted. In just 24 hours, shipping data showed only 5 ships moved through the Strait of Hormuz, including 1 Iranian oil tanker. That's not normal maritime traffic. That is pressure. Add in 34 redirected vessels and a U.S. blockade stretching from the Gulf of Oman to the open ocean, and Tehran is learning a very brutal lesson. Under President Trump, America does not ask permission to defend order. Now, this from the press secretary earlier today in one of her last media hits before she departs to give birth to her new daughter. Well, you heard it
straight from the Secretary of War this morning, and he's doing an incredible job on behalf of the president and our armed forces. And you heard it from him. The Iranian Navy, which was once the most powerful naval fleet in the Middle East, has now been reduced to piracy. These IRGC members, these Iranian terrorists, are running around like pirates in the Strait. And President Trump, as commander-in-chief, has given the green light and authorization to the Department of War to take lethal and kinetic action if they deem necessary. If these boats are threatening U.S. assets in the region, they will absolutely be dealt with accordingly. And I think the Secretary of War and the Department of War have shown how capable they are of dealing with drug boats, as evidenced by the many successful strikes on drug boats in the Caribbean Sea that were trafficking illicit poison here to the United States of America. So when the Commander-in-Chief gives an order to the Secretary of War, it is effectuated on win in if necessary, and we have shown that we have the most powerful military in the world, and the United States Navy is doing a tremendous job with this highly effective blockade in the Strait of Hormuz, which is exerting maximum leverage over the Iranian regime. We are strangling their economy, and it's getting weakened by the second.
You know, I'm not sure why they have to wait until they see a threat. I think they've already determined there's a threat. They should just wipe out all the small boats too. They've already wiped out the entire Navy. Why hold back on the small boats? Maybe that's why I'm not Commander-in-Chief. Okay, maybe that's why I'm not the head of the Department of War, right? The White House just made it plain Trump has authorized force if Iranian pirate boats threaten American assets. Now look at the results in the shipping data. Newsmax reports only 5 ships, including Iranian oil tanker, passed through the strait in the past 24 hours. Shipping data showed Friday after Iran seized 2 container ships and the U.S. kept blockading Iranian ports. The White House posting, the blockade is tightening by the hour. We are in control, nothing in, nothing out. And here is the Secretary of War at the press briefing this morning.
To the regime in Tehran, the blockade is tightening by the hour. We are in control, nothing in, nothing out. Iran's battered military, the IRGC specifically, has been reduced to a gang of pirates with a flag. They cloak their aggression in slogans, but the world now sees them for what they are, criminals on the high seas. They don't control anything. They're acting like pirates, acting like terrorists. They're the ones who lay indiscriminate mines, who shoot at random ships, who killed 45,000 of their own people, innocent protesters in the course of weeks, their own people. They are the bad actors. The vessels that the Iranians seized in recent days, a couple of them, they're not American ships. They're not Israeli ships. They're just random ships that drove their little speedboats up to and shot at those ships with AK-47s. Anyone with a speedboat, a gun, and the wrong intentions can do that. They know that we, the United States of America, control the flow of global shipping. And we know that they know. Their real navy is at the bottom of the Arabian Gulf.
And soon the small boats will too. That was a full warning to Tehran. America is in control, and Iran's navy is a busted pirate operation. Here we have next, the Secretary of War shuts down a reporter's provocative question talking about the extreme level of violence. It's called war, dude.
I heard you talk a lot about bombing people and places, and when you give these orders to carry out this extreme level of violence, what's going through your mind and your body? Do you have like an adrenaline rush? Are you scared? Do you feel like you're on a power trip? Just walk us through and paint us a picture of what it feels like mentally and physically.
It's a very TMZ question. My only thought process is to ensure that our warfighters have everything they need to be successful, defeat and destroy the enemy, and they come home. I want them to feel empowered, to have every authority they need within our rules and within our law to bring maximum violence to the enemy. Because war is violent, war requires doing difficult things, but I want our people to feel empowered, so it's our guys that come home and their guys that do not.
Now, if you don't know what he was referring to, he said it's a very TMZ question. Now, TMZ has just dispatched a couple film crews to Washington, D.C. Apparently, they've now got Pentagon access, which is very interesting. I encourage you to check out Mark Dice's video he just produced about this a couple days ago. Very eye-opening that TMZ would go in and start to cover the Capitol. And that question right there, like, I've never heard a question asked, like, what's going through your body? As if he's like, getting turned on by it or something, or he's getting off on the violence. It's like, that's why he said it's a very TMZ question. But he answered it perfectly. Shifting gears, we go to the White House now for a lighter moment from the office of the First Lady. announcing the expansion of the White House honey program with the addition of newly installed and fully functioning beehive on the South Lawn. Handcrafted by local artisan in the image of the White House, the beautiful new hive will add 2 new bee colonies to the existing 2 colonies that already produce the signature White House honey. Quite the contrast.
Listen, I love honey, but I'm not a fan of bees. I don't know how these guys are doing it without any like protection. Gloves or helmets. I would love to have a taste of that honey, though. Anyway, I threw that in there just, a little contrast.
We're talking about the Strait of Hormuz, and let's go to the White House now with a beautiful video about honeybees. Yes, after the lighter White House updates, back to the main fight. Hegseth laying out how the blockade is expanding, why the 34 ships have already been turned around, and how the mission is going global.
Unlike the endless wars of the past that dragged on for years and for decades with little to show for it, Operation Epic Fury has delivered a decisive military results in just weeks. Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, as the president has pointed out, all took years, decades. Vague missions, shifting sands, little to show for it. Operation Epic Fury has been laser focused from the very start, as I've said to all of you. Clear mission objectives, and ultimately Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. It's a bold and dangerous mission, a gift to the world, historic, courtesy of a bold and historic president. That mission continues today, in this new phase, as Iran has an important choice, a chance to make a deal, a good deal, a wise deal. As part of that effort, the United States has imposed an ironclad blockade that grows more powerful by the day. From the Gulf of Oman to the open oceans, our Navy is enforcing this blockade without hesitation or apology. Now, as usual, there's a lot of false information out there. I'll say this, every ship that the U.S. believes meets our criteria, either Iranian ships or to and from Iranian ports, has been turned around. As of this morning, 34 total. Non-Iranian vessels are allowed to transit, and many have, including overnight. Not only is the blockade growing, in fact, a second aircraft carrier will join the blockade in just a few days, but this growing blockade is also gone global. Just this week, we seized 2 Iranian dark fleet ships in the Indo-Pacific region that had left Iranian ports before the blockade went into effect. They thought they'd made it out just in time. They did not. We seized their sanctioned ships, and we will seize more. Our blockade is growing and going global.
Going global. I hope that Moscow's listening, China's listening. U.S. Central Command, for the first time in decades, 3 aircraft carriers are operating in the Middle East at the same time, accompanied by their carrier air wings, USS Abraham Lincoln, USS Gerald R. Ford, and USS George H.W. Bush, including over 200 aircraft and 15,000 sailors and Marines. That's exactly why Tehran's panicking. CENTCOM giving the hard number on the blockade right here. The blockade against ships entering or exiting Iranian ports continues to date. U.S. forces have redirected 34 vessels. And here's the big reveal. Iran's regime wants the world to believe it still commands fear on the water. But according to the White House, The Secretary of War, its Navy has been reduced to piracy speedboats, random seizures and mine threats, AK-47 theatrics. In other words, the myth is collapsing. America controls the sea lanes. America has 3 carrier groups in theater. America has the legal authority, the military power, and now the presidential green light to destroy threats if necessary. Hegseth said it plainly: give our warfighters enough authority that they need, bring the maximum violence to the enemy, and make sure our people come home. That's the difference between global leadership and global humiliation. President Trump's not playing defense. He's dictating the terms. So let's sum this up, shall we? The blockade is real. The squeeze is tightening. Iran's terror fleet is being exposed as a gang of pirates with a flag. And President Trump's made clear that attacks on U.S. assets will be met with force, not excuses. That's what America First looks like when it leaves the campaign trail and hits the command center. And while the Navy locks down hostile waters overseas, the White House is also sending a signal of confidence and continuity to home, with the First Lady Melania Trump expanding the South Lawn Honey program with a new beehive. Strength abroad, stability at home. That's leadership. If you support President Trump's blockade and believe Iran should face maximum pressure, answer this yes or no question in the comments. Should every hostile vessel threatening U.S. forces be stopped immediately? Share this report everywhere. Subscribe if you haven't. Check out the Next News merch shelf below this video and text RAW FEED to 844-840-4963 so YouTube can't bury this channel and you get direct messages from me straight to your phone.
The system controls information. Information control is power.
They don't want you to see this.
The truth only survives together. They don't want this. Share this now.